If you're new to our channel, we'd love to have you join our little community. Just hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. We promise it will be worth your while.
Imagine the universe sitting on a sheet of paper. Everything rests on a flat plane, the more massive celestial bodies sinking further into the firmament as their gravity warps reality to their whims. Earth, a minuscule depression drawing meteors and space junk towards it. Jupiter, a slightly deeper dip and a greater pull. The Sun, even more so, and enough that it carries an organized system of lesser bodies, planets and comets, in its orbit. And a black hole, so massive, so influential. It punches straight through the fabric of space and time, so great that not even the speediest thing in existence can escape its attraction. Charlie was reminded of this lesson from his AP Physics class as he sat in the Lawndale High School cafeteria, idly watching the flow of his fellow students circulate around the table at the center of it all. Around the popular kids, around his twin sister Ryan. Beautiful, outgoing, adored by her teachers, admired by her classmates. She was everything Charlie wasn't, a point he reflected on all alone from his spot in the corner of the lunchroom reserved for the outcasts and losers. He didn't resent his sister for their difference in social status. It wasn't her fault that their shared diminutive stature, slim build, and soft, delicate features were what made every guy in school want to date her, and every bully in school want to stuff him into a locker. No resentment, but if he was going to be a target, Charlie decided a long time ago it would be best to try to not draw attention to himself. Practiced at being inconspicuous, his usual drab wardrobe of baggy clothes and a baseball cap pulled low unwittingly made him stick out more for his dullness when compared to the supernova that was Ryan. Charlie's saving grace, not so ironically, was that nobody dared to harass him for fear they would ruin their chances with her. That abuse was instead directed at all the other kids unlucky enough to wind up in the crosshairs of the privileged popular cliques. Football players, or kids whose parents had money, or anybody who felt justified in taking their anger out on somebody who was perceived to be lower than them. That, more than any of Einstein's theories, was the immutable law of high school. Get in the way of your social better, and you better be prepared for pain. The crash of molded plastic clattering off linoleum halted the carefully coordinated dance of students traveling from their tables to the lunch line and back. Charlie's eyes, along with everybody else's, were drawn to find out which unfortunate soul was going to be that day's main character. "Oh no," Charlie muttered under his breath. "Nice going, puke stain." The taunt came from one of the innermost tables, but the laughter and catcalls soon joined in from all sides. "Puke stain! Puke stain! Puke stain!" Paul Swain kept his head down, scrambling to rescue whatever could be salvaged of his scattered meal. He got back to his feet and shuffled awkwardly to his one island of safety. Deep in the corner of the lunchroom, as far from the mocking chant as he could get without running out into the hallway, he set his tray down purposely this time, next to his best friend, Charlie. "It's not even a good insult," Paul grumbled as he sat down. "Barely rhymes." Charlie failed to hide the pity in his eyes as he struggled to come up with some way to console his friend, settling on a weak, "Yeah, I know, right?" If Charlie was a perfect target for bullies, Paul was the diagram they'd put in manuals for who to pick on. Pudgy, terminally cowlicked hair, thick glasses, and clothes that no matter where they came from just never seemed to fit him right. The two met in the 5th grade, placed into the gifted program their removal from the student body at large only cemented their otherness. Their shared love of robotics projects and impenetrably dense sci-fi epics guaranteed their lifelong friendship. "Did you see who tripped me?" Paul asked. Charlie shrugged. He had missed anything that had led up to the fall. "Fucking Gavin Keene," he sneered, answering his own question. "Dumb jock cut me in line too." "Are you sure? I mean, maybe you slipped." "Really?" Paul gave an annoyed grunt. "Look at him, Charlie. He's over there laughing about it now." Sure enough, all the guys at Gavin's table were practically in conniptions, with Gavin flailing his arms and legs in a mock gesture of somebody stumbling and falling. Charlie felt his jaw clench. Paul had been minding his own business, but there would always be an asshole like Gavin who would still mess with kids like him anyway. Yeah, I know. The pair sat quietly, each picking at their lunches. The silence getting the better of him, Charlie reached over and snatched a tater tot off of Paul's tray, nimbly escaping with his prize before the rightful owner could spear him with a plastic fork. Come on, I already lost like half of my tots on the floor, Paul whined. But you didn't lose all of them, Charlie nudged his sullen friend. And that's what's important, right? He tried with a hopeful smile. Screw you and your after-school special BS. Paul rolled his eyes before cracking a smile of his own. Hey, dude, did you see who's going to play the new captain? But Charlie had stopped listening, his attention drawn back to Gavin. The cocky jerk had finished his pantomime and was sauntering towards the center of the cafeteria. The purposeful stride told Charlie his destination instantly. Charlie's eyes searched for his sister, not needing long to find her in her usual spot, encircled by a group of loudly chattering teen girls. Disquiet rippled along Gavin's path until he reached Ryan's seat. All of the girls suddenly stopped mid-conversation, seemingly holding their breath in unison. Gavin's confident swagger faltered for the first time that day. Suddenly bashful, the distance between him and Charlie muffled whatever he was saying to Ryan. Judging only by his body language, Charlie watched as his friend's bully seemed to be stammering something. Ryan, for her part, smiled sweetly, her usual welcoming posture that could put anybody at ease. Gavin ran a hand over his close-cropped hair, nervously scratching at the spot where the collar of his shirt rubbed against the back of his neck. A quick back and forth before he wound up for the big question. Watching Ryan, Charlie saw the flicker of her smile drop for just a second, and while he couldn't hear her, he could easily see her mouth the words, "Meet me behind the gym." That seemed to be a good enough answer for the nervous boy, as the tension seemed to melt from him instantly. Gavin nodded to Ryan, but her eyes had instead found her brother's. A hard look and purposeful frown sent his way from across the room. And then, like a switch was flipped, she was back to being all smiles and sunshine towards Gavin. Finished with what he came to do, he practically skipped back to his table, while all the girls around Ryan erupted into excited squeals. And it looks like they're setting up Korax and the Raven Guard to be the bad guys in the next Charlie? Hey, Charlie! Realizing he had been mostly talking to himself the past few minutes, Paul followed what had taken his friend's attention. Oh, figures, his mood soured. The asshole's gonna ask your sister out. Girls always go for jerks like him. She's not that shallow, Charlie defended his sister. And besides, I know getting asked out all the time really sucks for her. Oh yeah, sure. How hard it must be that every guy in school throws himself at her all the time. Must really suck to be so hot. Dude, come on. Charlie bristled at the remark on his sister's attractiveness. Even if he knew it was objectively true, it was always weird to hear other guys say it, especially when it was coming from his best friend. Really, it kills her to have to turn these guys down. She's always been like that. Like when we were in first grade, she got invited to 2 birthday parties that were on the same day. She cried for like the whole week before the party, because she thought that whichever kid's party she skipped would hate her forever. All right, sorry, but that's not a bad problem to have, being too popular. Charlie sighed. I'm only telling you this because you're you, but she was so desperate before those birthday parties that she tried to convince me to dress up like her and go to one of the parties, and she would go to the other. Paul looked at Charlie with a cocked eyebrow, a beat passing before he burst into laughter. Oh my God, dude. That would have been so funny. Like, I know you're twins, but no offense, you're not nearly as cute as your sister. Charlie let out a wry chuckle of his own, just as the bell rang to end the lunch period. Kids all around them hurried to gather up their things and toss out any trash. Yeah, thank God our parents talked her out of it. He got up from his seat, hoisting his backpack onto his shoulder while Paul went to drop his tray off at the wash station. As Charlie waited for his friend, he shot one last look over towards his sister. His beautiful, popular sister at the center of the lunchroom universe. surrounded by other pretty girls, trailed by the boys who wanted to be close to the pretty girls, casting off tales of other kids who waited for the crush of people to make their way into the hallway so they could leave for their next classes. Ryan couldn't help it if she wanted, no more than the sun could repel the planets, or the earth could set loose the moon. And because of that, Charlie was once again going to be his sister's anti-gravity. The hallway outside the science labs had cleared out for the day. At the far end of the old building, and without any lockers down that way, that part of the school was deserted by the time the late bell rang to indicate that the afternoon buses would be pulling out. Checking over his shoulder, then up and back down the corridor, Charlie made absolutely sure nobody saw him as he placed his palm flat on the heavy wood door to the girls' bathroom and pushed it open. He scanned the interior, one last check that the room was empty. It was mostly unremarkable. Pink and cream tile in place of the boys' blue and white, extra stalls where he was used to seeing urinals. But then again, being in the opposite gender's bathroom had become unremarkable in its own right to Charlie. "You're late!" The usually bubbly, currently perturbed voice of his sister startled him as she came out of what he thought was an unoccupied stall. "Geez, Rye, I had a test last period. I couldn't exactly skip out early. Besides, you know the plan is to wait for everybody to leave first." The plan. A harebrained scheme cooked up by a 6-year-old, and then revisited and refined years later by a couple of teenagers too clever for their own good. One sibling couldn't hurt anybody's feelings. The other wanted nothing more than to see the smug bullies taken down a peg. "No, you're right, but Gavin's got to get to practice and he's not going to wait around forever." Ryan's tone softened, but it still betrayed a hint of anxiety. "If we don't get this done today, then I know he's going to want a straight answer tomorrow in class." I don't know why you care so much about these jerks' feelings," Charlie scoffed. "He's not so bad," was her weary response. The pair had done this dance plenty of times before. "He works really hard, you know. 2 a days going to tutoring and practice on the weekends, all so he can stay eligible for the team. He's really good at making pinch pots in ceramics class, too." Where Ryan was willing to give people the benefit of the doubt, Charlie only saw their faults. "He tripped Paul today." "When?" She seemed genuinely unaware. "At lunch. You were probably too busy to notice," Charlie answered with a harder edge than he intended. "Oh." The two stood awkwardly until, with a sigh, Charlie broke the tension. "All right, let's get this over with." "Oh yeah," Ryan snapped to attention. Leaning into the stall she had hidden in earlier, she came back out with a sandy brown bag. With its chunky gold zipper tabs and surplus of exterior pockets, the backpack was constructed more like a designer bag than something to lug books to class. She held it up to her brother. "Let me give you a hand." "I got this," he said, taking the bag and handing back his baseball cap. Now free, Charlie's hair tumbled down from the pile it had been kept in under the well-worn hat, settling at its unencumbered shoulder length. He unzipped a side pocket in Ryan's bag, and with the scrunchie he had no trouble finding there, quickly swept the messy chestnut tresses back into a high ponytail. With nothing else to do for the moment, Ryan's fingers toyed with the locket that dangled from the simple gold chain hung around her neck as she watched her twin from behind, his hair bouncing playfully while he systematically pulled an assortment of cosmetics from their resting places and arranged them on the stainless steel shelf that ran the length of the wall below the bathroom mirrors. "Just let me know if you do need me to explain anything," the girl offered, though any pause from her brother appeared to be more out of a desire to select the perfect thing than unfamiliarity with any one item. Tweezers in hand, Charlie was too focused to even brush away his sister's offer of help. He looked into the mirror, alternating between his own reflection and Ryan a few steps behind and just off to his side. Plucking purposefully, he only had a few hairs to clean up, any more that he might have worried about still not grown back in since the last time he had gone over his brows. He smoothed them down with his thumbs, happy that the shape was just right. A quick rinse with a cleanser, and his initial prep work was complete. Like an artist working on a portrait, Charlie used Ryan as his reference, his own face, his canvas. The boy with the delicate features applied a light layer of tinted moisturizer, priming his skin and giving his washed-out complexion a healthy glow. Next was a few spots of concealer where a red acne bump threatened to spoil the desired uniformity. Ryan preferred the natural look, so Charlie didn't have much work to do around his eyes. A steady hand drew thin lines of black on the upper lash lines, then a couple swipes of mascara and a quick clamp to give his eyelashes that painfully inviting flutter, the kind that melted hearts and stiffened other parts. Switching to a big, fluffy brush, Charlie bypassed 2 different plastic clamshells and selected a third. He clicked open the palette, a quartet of powders pressed into perfect squares of barely varied shades. The bristles were tapped into the most used of the 4. Charlie sucked his cheeks in, and with a flurry of circles, left a rosy hue along the ridges created by prominent cheekbones. He swept the brush across the bridge of a narrow nose, back and forth from one side to the other, to give the appearance of a shy, permanent flush. He picked up a stiff, pen-sized brush and returned to the circular compact he had passed over moments earlier. With several more swift strokes, Charlie picked and poked and blended glittery silver highlighter in a few choice spots. "You've gotten really good at that," Ryan complimented her brother. When they had started doing this, Charlie was a begrudging participant, a dead fish in front of the mirror while she did all the work. Even up until a few months ago, she had to walk him through every step as he disinterestedly followed instructions. But she knew he was a fast study, and what a difference repetition made as she watched her brother reach for the peachy shade of nude lipstick she had used that morning. "Oh wait, this part's tricky." Ryan moved to step in and help, but Charlie, still seemingly in his own little world, ignored her as he rolled on a quick coat of the waxy lipstick, blotted, puckered up, and finished by deftly brushing on petal pink gloss. Or maybe not. Turning this way and that, Charlie took his face in from several angles. A slight curl came to the corners of his mouth as he couldn't help but feel proud of his work. From nothing to a full face in just shy of 15 minutes. He slipped the scrunchie from his hair, keeping it on his wrist like a bracelet, and combed out any tangles with his fingers. "Charlie, where'd you figure out that's how I did my lips today?" "Huh? Oh, you shared that TikTok about it. The everyday glass lip," he casually answered while he continued to primp in the mirror. Had it not been for the couple dozen times they had done this already, the transformation would be astonishing. They may be twins, but standing side by side, the two were more like clones. Their mismatched clothing the only dead giveaway for which was which. One wore a cute outfit of a long-sleeved, slate-gray mock turtleneck cropped right at the high waistband of a gently ruffled tartan skirt. The pleated wool that hit at mid-thigh was hemmed in teasing black lace and allowed for just enough leg to not run afoul of the dress code. The look was completed by bunched-up, calf-high crew socks and clean charcoal sneakers. The other twin wore an oversized black hoodie, featureless and devoid of design, and heavy denim jeans a couple inches too long, frayed and ripped at the back heel where they were stepped on endlessly by clumsy brown and tan low tops. Charlie swept at his hair one more time, the only feature from the neck up that was not quite identical to his sibling. Ryan's was just a few more inches past her shoulder, and just a little more wavy from having been subjected to a curling iron where he wasn't. "Weren't you the one who told me boys don't notice stuff like that?" Ryan interrupted her brother's fidgeting, as if she was reading his mind. She put her hands on his shoulders and rested her head next to his, appreciating the resemblance up close. "Now come on, we're wasting time!" She tore Charlie away from the mirror and pushed him into the leftmost stall, taking the one to its right for herself. The door latched with a sharp clack. Charlie stood in the cramped cubicle. He pawed at his bangs, finally getting them to stay how he wanted, just in time for a bundle of foam-padded nylon and whisper-soft wool to fall on his head and spoil his efforts. He caught his sister's discarded clothing before anything could hit the floor and went about removing his own significantly heavier wardrobe. Sweatshirts and jeans were passed above the divider wall to waiting hands, while shoes were slid under. Stripped to a pair of blue and yellow candy-striped boxer briefs, nearly naked in the girls' bathroom, Charlie was quick to step into his newly acquired skirt and settle it around his waist. He rued the next article of clothing, the strappy, lacy thing that he held at arm's length. Doing as his sister had taught him, and wondering how many guys could say the same, he wrapped the bra around him, fastening the hooks in front of his flat belly. A pause as the tag on the band alerted him to a recent and unannounced upgrade from B to C. Charlie spun the contraption around, hoisting the straps onto his shoulders. The tissues he had prepared weren't enough, as he looked around for something that could fill the larger-than-expected cups while also providing a little weight. Guys may not notice things like hair, but they sure as hell paid attention to what's under a girl's sweater. Or what they think is there, at least. Charlie took extra care to pull the high-necked sweater over his head without smudging the work of art that was his face. The stall doors opened in unison. From the left stepped a girl with bouncy, shoulder-length chestnut hair. She wore a cozy sweater, flirty skirt, and sporty sneakers without socks. Emerging from the stall next to hers was a tomboyish but still cute girl who must have raided her brother's closet for a 2 sizes too large sweatshirt and jeans that were held up by a belt pulled to its last hole. A baseball cap was mashed down on her head, with loose, glossy brown curls spilling from its sides. Whether it was Ryan's inherent girlishness or some other undefined factor, for all of the success that Charlie had in impersonating his sister, the reverse always came up short. More than clothes, the two were the same height and nearly the same weight. But from the moment Charlie had stepped back out, he appeared sprightlier than when he had entered, a transformation that Ryan failed to replicate. "Did you have to wear such a short skirt?" Charlie whined. He shifted on his feet as he tugged at the lace adorned them. "My underwear is practically showing." "Then don't bend over," Ryan teased her pretty brother with a smile. This wasn't the first time Charlie had complained about the clothes he had to wear, but Ryan was less inclined to grant his arguing any seriousness considering his hairless and moisturized legs that had no business being hidden under a pair of jeans. The glare Charlie gave his sister would have melted steel. "Whatever, at least I get to tell that prick Gavin Keene to go fuck himself. Almost makes this worth it." "Hey, you know the deal." Ryan grabbed Charlie's slender arm. "Let him down gently." "Oh, for sure." "Charlie, I'm serious." Ryan's tone left no doubt about that. "Tell me what you're going to say to him." The boy dressed in his sister's clothes put a hand on his hip and pointed one knee out. He cleared his throat and hummed until he found a particular note. "Gavin, you're so totally hot. No cap. But I'm like such a Virgo and you're giving me mad Scorpio." Charlie spoke in a perfect copy of Ryan's voice. "Stop it. I do not talk like that," Ryan replied in dismay. "Oh God, you have like a negative riz," Charlie shot back. "Quit it," the two said in perfect harmony. Ryan stamped her foot, vexed by the childish copycatting. "Oh yeah?" She pitched her voice lower, not even coming close to matching her twin's natural sound. "I'm Charlie, and I would rather read comic books all day than go outside and talk to a real girl." A hand shot to his mouth and Charlie sputtered, I can't believe you'd say that." His nose wrinkled, and eyes fluttered like he was fighting back tears. Ryan instantly felt a stab in her heart, afraid she had gone too far with that insult. "I haven't read comics since Robbie Rodriguez stopped doing the art for Spider-Gwen." "You brat," Ryan swatted at a giggling Charlie. He dodged her next smack, backed against the door. "Just be nice, please." He gave a nod of agreement and started out the door. "Wait!" Ryan stopped him. She fished down the front of her borrowed sweatshirt, extracting her locket. "Almost forgot," she said, clasping the necklace around Charlie's neck. The gym was on the opposite side of the school. A building to itself, it was surrounded on 2 sides by the teacher's parking lot and an expanse of ball fields. One other side faced the interior courtyard, cutting through the grass and benches the route most students took to get there quickest. The last side, a blank brick wall that ran the length of a narrow paved alley fenced in on both sides, was only accessible from a back hallway, the building's single interior link to the rest of the school buildings. A hint of a smile still on his lips, Charlie navigated the twisting passageways. dressed in a skirt and a sweater that would flash his belly if he lifted his arms above his head. He was confident in his disguise, but was put at ease knowing that this late after the last bell, there shouldn't be anybody else between him and his destination. The boy was waiting patiently for him. Gavin Keene, already changed into his uniform with his helmet tucked under his arm. Charlie wondered how long he would have waited for him if he, or his sister, had never shown up. How much would he risk his coach's ire just to hear Ryan's answer? Gavin moved his helmet from one hand to the other. "Hey." He tried to look nonchalant. The single word he dared to utter strained as he puffed out his chest and not so subtly flexed his biceps. "Oh good, you're still here," Charlie replied in his sister's voice. "I had something to take care of, but it's cool you waited for me." The slight went unnoticed, as Gavin was too busy giving a long and languorous look up and down Charlie's legs. His gaze continued up and rested on the swell created by fake breasts. "No problem. I'd wait all day for you, baby," Gavin said to the cross-dressed boy's chest. Charlie gave a slight shake of the head, his opinion of the jock vindicated. "So go ahead. Give me your best shot." Gavin took a step closer to Charlie, close enough to reach out and touch him, close enough to bust the smaller boy's nose if his deception was found out. "I was thinking, Maddie Bonanno's having a party next weekend, and I thought I could give you a ride." Gavin's gaze had never made it all the way to Charlie's, but it had dropped to his own feet as he spoke. He kicked at a discarded vape pod, causing it to skitter into an unseen corner. "And, we could go together?" "What color are my eyes?" "Huh?" Gavin's confused face finally rose to meet Charlie's eyes, finding closed lids blocking him from the answer. "What does that matter?" "You want to go out with me, right? Well, I think a boyfriend should know his girlfriend's eye color, unless he's been staring at her tits this whole time." Gavin was taken aback, in part by the direct aggression, and just as much by the coarse language. Ryan had a reputation of being a goody-goody, docile, so sweet she'd give you a cavity. He never expected her to be hiding this kind of edge. "Green?" he guessed. Charlie opened his eyes, his big brown eyes. "Bzzzt. Nice try, hotshot. But maybe next time play the odds and go with the eye color that half the people on the planet have." "So what? You're saying you won't go with me because I got it wrong?" Gavin asked, his anger growing. Charlie closed the distance between the two further, poking a slender finger into the athlete's muscled chest. "I'm saying no because you're inconsiderate. I'm saying no because you barely know anything about me. And I'm saying no because you messed with my brother's friend today, and I can't forgive that." "What are you talking about? I wouldn't go anywhere near the freaks your brother hangs out with. You think I would waste my time with any of them?" "Then who tripped Paul Swain today at lunch?" "Puke stain. That's what this is about? The little gobbler tripped over his own feet." Gavin snorted derisively. "Whatever. I'm sorry, all right?" Gavin wasn't happy about apologizing, especially for something he couldn't remember if he had done or not. But if it meant the chance to hook up with Ryan, he would swallow his pride. "Gavin?" Charlie looked up at him and fluttered his eyelashes. "That must have been hard for you." He stopped jabbing with his finger and traced the number along the front of Gavin's shirt. "So you'll go to the party with me?" He looked so hopeful. "Never." And with a single word, his dreams were crushed. Gavin stood stunned, unprepared to have been rejected so decisively. Not just no, but never. That should have been enough. But seeing the cocky bully on the ropes, Charlie couldn't help the urge to deliver the knockout blow. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not with an immature asshole like you. You're nothing more than a boy pretending to be a man. Charlie almost felt bad. Almost. He was going to have to apologize to Ryan for doing the mean girl routine. And still, he continued. "By the way, girls talk, and we all know about the pathetic little micropeen you've got hiding in those shorts." That last bit may or may not have been true. Charlie honestly didn't know. But he was willing to bet that the chance of the girls in school thinking the big strong jock had a teeny tiny dick would be enough to send Gavin into a prolonged tailspin. Charlie was definitely going to have to apologize to Ryan. Composing his apology in his mind, Charlie floated through the halls. So happy with his performance, he even threw in a quick spin on one foot as he headed back towards the science building. He turned a corner, and in his distraction ran smack into a soft body. Charlie stumbled, falling onto his backside with a girlish, "Eep!" Never. He looked up from his seat on the sneaker-streaked floor, right at his best friend. He wasn't sure if he should try to explain himself or just run, but the way Paul looked everywhere but at the person he had just bowled over gave Charlie pause. With sudden realization, a hand shot between his legs, reflexively covering himself up before his friend could see up his short skirt.